Nintendo just dropped the biggest Nintendo Direct of all time, but did it live up to the hype? What were the biggest announcements from the show? What do they mean for the Nintendo Switch 2? What was missing, and how are we feeling about the Switch 2 and its future after that Nintendo Direct? We're going to talk all about that today and more. What's up, everyone? This is Justin, and welcome to Just Keep Playing. Please join me today as we break down the biggest Nintendo Direct ever. All right, so we're going to get right to it and just jump right in and talk about the big announcements. First, we'll start off with the big announcements from Nintendo, and then we'll break down the announcements that we got from the third parties. And as we get into it, make sure you let me know what you thought about the Nintendo Direct in the comments below. Let me know what was your favorite announcements, what games are you looking forward to the most, and what maybe disappointed you about the Direct. Let me know in the comments. All right, so we got to kick things off with what ended things, the main event of the Nintendo Direct for me and for many others, and that was the announcement of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. All right, so right off the bat, for me, I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. I made a video right here. You can see this one right here. I made a video talking about what games would have made the Nintendo Direct a dream, a perfect Direct for me, and the announcement of a brand new Fire Emblem was one of those games. And the game looks absolutely incredible. You can already tell that it is a huge step up from what we were getting during the Switch era of Fire Emblem games. The animations in the game is a huge step up from what we got with Fire Emblem Three Houses and Fire Emblem Engage. You could really tell when you saw the animation on like the beast monsters and how they moved around. They weren't just super stiff and robotic like they were in Three Houses. The characters and art and world just looks, the tone of it just feels like we have a mature and epic tale ahead of us. And I'm so ready to dive into this game and into this story. We don't know exactly when the Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is coming out. We just know that it is coming out in 2026. But one of the really cool things about Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is that immediately you could tell that it has ties to Fire Emblem Three Houses, one of my favorite Fire Emblem games of all time, and a top 5, top 10 game on the original Nintendo Switch. Just how will it connect to Fire Emblem Three Houses remains to be seen, but I am definitely excited to find out. I'm excited to see how the game takes advantage of the Switch 2. We already can see it just from how the game looks, and just that is a remarkable improvement from what we got on the original Switch era. But are we going to get some mouse mode controls in there? That has to be in there, so I'm excited to see that. But just getting more Fire Emblem, that is always a good thing in my book. One of my favorite franchises from Nintendo. But is it one of yours? Are you excited for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave? Let me know in the comments. But now we have to talk about Metroid and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So we finally got our release date for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And I'm really happy that it is coming out this year, December 4th. I was personally really hoping that it would make it out in November. I wish that Metroid Prime 4 and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment had swapped their release dates, and that we were getting Metroid in early November, just because until I'm proven wrong, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has a huge chance of being one of the best rated games of the year. It's definitely looking like it would be a contender for my personal game of the year, but it definitely would have been really cool to see it competing for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. Not that the Game Awards is the final metric for what was the best game to come out that year, but it would be really good for Metroid to get that added attention and more eyes on it to help the series grow, because Metroid should be one of Nintendo's biggest franchises, but sales wise it definitely is not at the same level of a Mario or Zelda. But this is the Metroid that I believe could cause the franchise to really break out. So having that extra push would have been really good for it, but it does have the whole month of December to itself, and I still think that this Metroid Prime 4 Beyond has the chance to be the breakout entry in the series, to become the best-selling Metroid game of all time, but also just to take the series to the next level. And before we talk more Metroid, if you're enjoying this video and if you're excited for Metroid, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, because we're going to have a lot of exciting things leading up to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond coming out. All right, but to continue on with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, we got a brand new trailer for the game. We got our release date. And for me, in my opinion, the trailer that we got, the game looks fantastic. It looks great. Samus has a new motorcycle that's looking cool. She's getting her Akira slide going on, being able to attack enemies with the bike. And yeah, just Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It looks great. I'm ready for it. I really don't need to see any more. I'm sold. I'm going to get the game. I'm just ready to dive in. But it was interesting how they just pretty much just dropped the trailer, showed the release date, and then moved on to talking about Donkey Kong Bonanza DLC. Heading into this direct, there was a lot of hope, hype, and speculation that we would maybe see an announcement for a Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Nintendo Direct. Instead of that, we got an announcement for another Kirby Air Riders Nintendo Direct. I'm always down to see more Sakurai and to see him talking about Kirby, but does Kirby really need that? But yeah, we still could see an announcement for that. It's just obviously gonna come later now. But there was also maybe hope of some shadow drops for Metroid Prime 2 and 3, so that we could have time to play those games for people that haven't played them before Prime 4 comes out. There's still a chance for that. Maybe we'll get an announcement for that sometime down the road, but that definitely would have made the Direct more hype to have gotten those announcements and just the big push for Metroid. But it still seems that big push for Metroid is going to come a little bit later. We mentioned Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment earlier, and you can just immediately see the added impact that the Switch 2 has had on Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. The Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity that came out on the original Nintendo Switch, I really loved that game, but it definitely was struggling on the Nintendo Switch. But you can already see on the Switch 2 with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment that it looks so much better. It looks like it's performing so much better. They showed the split screen 2-player co-op mode, and just how that did not slow down to a crawl is already just a huge improvement over what we got with Age of Calamity on the Nintendo Switch. So I'm excited for Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, which it has to be the last game to take place in the world of the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom era of Zelda. So this is going to be our last entry into that world. So I'm excited to wrap up that tale and this era of Zelda with an action-packed epic. And Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is coming out this year on November 6th. And yes, one of the things that this direct proved, everybody was wondering, is one of these games or multiple of these games? Are they going to slip to next year? Because, we had people worrying because they didn't know the dates for them yet. And now we have confirmation that we are getting Pokemon, Kirby, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. We're getting all of them this year, and we are ending the year with a bang, with some amazing games to look forward to. Talking about Pokemon Legends ZA, that game continues to just look really good. The first fully action RPG entry in the Pokemon series. I'm already excited for this game. I'm sold on it. It looks great. The Mega Evolutions look cool. The combat looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. The online looks like we're going to be able to sink a lot of time into it. So yes, bring on Pokemon Legends ZA, coming out next month. So don't have too much longer to wait for Pokemon Legends ZA. And in just a few, we're going to talk about what opened up the Nintendo Direct with celebrating Mario and his 40th anniversary. But first, I have to talk about the announcement that had everybody like, what? That I did not see that one coming. And that was the announcement of the Virtual Boy coming to Nintendo Switch Online. And yes, you can actually get a Virtual Boy accessory that you can put your Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 in to be able to play the Virtual Boy games in that stereoscopic 3D. To me, I think that that's pretty cool. It was met with a lot of criticism that I saw online with people like, what? Why are they doing this? This is a waste of time. Who wants this? This is just a cash grab. But in my opinion, one of the really cool things about the whole Nintendo Classics, Nintendo Switch Online, is being able to play all of these games from throughout Nintendo's history, but being able to play them in a way that they were somewhat intended to be played when they originally came out. Like being able to play the NES games with an NES controller, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64 games, GameCube games with the controller that you originally were able to play those games with. That really helps give it that more authentic feel. So with the Virtual Boy, having that Virtual Boy accessory and being able to play those games how we had them back in the day, to me, that's a cool piece of history. Yes, the Virtual Boy is one of Nintendo's biggest flops and failures ever, but that doesn't mean that the addition of it to Nintendo Switch Online is not. It is an added value. Its failure back in the day doesn't take away from the value that it adds to Nintendo Switch Online right now. But even more importantly than that is what them releasing this Virtual Boy accessory actually truly means. Them doing an accessory like this, Nintendo doing this for the Virtual Boy, now this truly has me believing that there is no reason why they won't and aren't going to do something similar for the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo 3DS. Much has been made about the charging slot on top of the Nintendo Switch 2. Well, now what's to stop them from an additional Nintendo DS or 3DS screen accessory that you can plug into the top of the Nintendo Switch 2 and play those Nintendo DS and 3DS games on your Nintendo Switch 2 in the way that you were able to play them on those systems. I think that that's really cool, and it's something that I would would truly be looking forward to and would really love to be able to do that. All right, so let's talk about Mario. It is Mario's 40th anniversary year. The date is officially it was on Saturday, September 13th, the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary, the game, the series that got me into video games. And we got what I thought was some pretty cool announcements for Mario's 40th anniversary. We got new games, addition to games, and the return of some games. First, let's talk about the two new games, and we'll start things off with Mario Tennis Fever. And I have to say, from what I saw, it looks to me like with Mario Tennis Fever, it looks like they are legit addressing every criticism of the Mario sports games that we got back in the Nintendo Switch era, where you had complaints of lack of content. Why are they holding off on characters? Where's my story mode? It looks like they're addressing all of that. This has the biggest roster from the start with over 38 characters. It has that story mode that looks, like a RPG with the the baby Mario and friends having to regain their tennis powers. Definitely a ridiculous, crazy premise, but hey, it gives you a reason to play the game single player and to really get to learn the mechanics of the game. It looked like there were a lot of cool modes as well. And when it came to the Mario sports games on the Nintendo Switch, Mario Tennis was the best one. So it makes sense to start things off with that one, even though I know a lot of people were hoping for Mario Baseball to return, which it still could. And I imagine that if this one gets that positive reception and word of mouth and does well, then this may be the new standard that they approach Mario sports titles on the Nintendo Switch 2 era. So to me, that would be pretty cool. And then we got a brand new Yoshi game. It looking like the Yoshi's game from back in the day in the Super Nintendo era. The game looks pretty cool. Didn't really see much in the way of enemies or anything like that, so don't know if it's like just going to be just a cozy type game, or is there going to be maybe some kind of difficulty to it, or is it just going to be a nice cozy easy adventure? But the game looks cool. And then we got the announcement of the Nintendo Switch 2 edition for Mario Wonder, with some really cool looking modes for multiplayer and some new things for the single player, where it looks like Bowser's Koopa Kids are making a return, where they'll be the boss characters that we should have had in the original release of Mario Wonder. But hey, I really loved Mario Wonder. I thought that game was incredible and fantastic. So I'm excited to have a reason to get back into that game with more content. So I think that is pretty cool. And then we had the big announcement of the next Mario movie and the reveal of it being Super Mario Galaxy, the movie. I love the first Super Mario Bros. Movie, Super Mario Galaxy, those two games, which we are going to get ready to talk about, two of the greatest games of all time. So making a movie based off of those, yeah, I'm down. I'm there. I'm ready to watch it. And so speaking of Super Mario Galaxy, we also got the announcement of the return of Super Mario Galaxy. And finally, we also get Super Mario Galaxy 2. Now, yes, they did come with some controversy, and that has to do with the price of the games. It definitely is a bit of a hefty price tag, a heftier price tag than you would have thought. With they're bundling the two games together, Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, for $70 all complete on cartridge. That is a bit steep, especially when we got the All Stars collection with 3 games for $60. Yes, they did. They've done some updates. There's new content. You can get 4K 60 on the Switch 2 version of the game. So Looks like maybe there's a little bit of effort put into those games, but I definitely think that it would have come off a little bit better if maybe, Nintendo dropped those games for the bundle for 50 or 60 and sold them individually maybe for 20 to 30. I think that would have gone down a little bit easier. I do like that they are making it possible where if you already have Mario Galaxy and you just want to go and grab Mario Galaxy 2 and you don't care about the physical of it, then yes, you can get Super Mario Galaxy 2 individually. Again, a bit of a steep price for it at that 40, but I appreciate having the option to get that one on its own and not have to buy Mario Galaxy again if you already had that and didn't want to buy the bundle pack of it. Now, there was something Mario that everybody was hoping for, that we maybe got our hopes up that we would get to see. We're going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about what was missing from this Nintendo Direct. But first, I want to talk about the big third-party announcements. On the third-party side of things, I have to talk about two of the publishers that have been showing up or are showing up huge on the Nintendo Switch 2 so far, and that is Capcom and Square Enix. We'll start things off with Square Enix. We finally got the big release date reveal for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and that game is coming out on January 22nd, so it's coming out next year. And they didn't mention this in the Direct, which I think that would have been a really cool announcement to have made in the Nintendo Direct, so I don't know why they didn't do that. But we also found out later on confirmation from Square Enix themselves that officially the entire Final Fantasy VII trilogy will be coming on the Nintendo Switch 2. So that confirms what has been rumored, that yes, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, and now we know that we will be also getting the third part, the conclusion to this huge epic remake trilogy. So that is a huge announcement and can really be a significant impact history-wise when it comes to the future of the Final Fantasy series. Will it again find its home on Nintendo systems, especially in Japan? Will it become the primary console for Final Fantasy for some people? So that is a pretty big deal. And then the other big game announcement that we got from Square Enix was the announcement of the remake, the reimagining of Dragon Quest VII. Now, I was torn on this game visually. Visually, I think it really looks fantastic, but some of the character models had me like, that is a curious choice, especially my dude with the chin. Like, man, what is going on with him? Like, do we have to look at that chin for the entire game? But no, I'm just joking around. But overall, the game does look really, really good. But yeah, there's some curious choices with some of the character models. But yes, the game looks great. But it also highlights one of the interesting things that have come from Square Enix so far throughout the Switch 2, the start of the Switch 2 era, and it's something that I might need to address in a future video. But one of the big controversial topics when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 is the topic of game key cards, and Square Enix has been putting every game that they are making for the Nintendo Switch 2 on a game key card. Now, a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, that one definitely makes sense because it is a crazy 90 gigabyte file size. So yes, that is not going to fit on a cartridge. So for that game, a game key card makes sense. But with some of the games where they could definitely fit complete on a cartridge, they're still going with the game key card. But with some of those games that also have a Nintendo Switch, original Nintendo Switch version of the game, they're being inconsistent with the games that they are offering a upgrade path for. Like say with Dragon Quest 3, you can upgrade your Nintendo Switch version to a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. Dragon Quest 1 and 2, you just either have to get the game on the Switch, or you have to get the game key card on the Switch 2. No upgrade path from the Switch to the Switch 2 for that one. Romancing Saga 2, they did an upgrade path for it. Now Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined, no upgrade path from the Switch version to the Switch 2 version. So it doesn't really make sense why they are making these decisions that they're making, but they are. But so yeah, that was a curious topic for me that I got from this Nintendo Direct, and just every decision that Square Enix has made on the Switch 2. But so now we need to talk about Capcom, and we'll start off with Monster Hunter Stories 3. Monster Hunter Stories 2 on the Nintendo Switch, that is a bit of a sleeper hit RPG on that system to me. I love that game. It's really good. If you haven't played it, I would encourage you to check it out. It doesn't have official enhancement, but it plays a whole lot better and at a better frame rate and all of that good stuff on the Nintendo Switch 2. So I would definitely encourage you to check that game out. But Monster Hunter Stories 3 continues to look really good, so I'm definitely looking forward to that game. But the big thing that we were anticipating and looking forward to and hoping for was the announcement of Resident Evil 9, Resident Evil Requiem. We also got the announcement that Resident Evil 7 and 8 will be coming out on the same day as well for the Nintendo Switch 2. But the big thing for Resident Evil 9 is that it is coming out day and date with the other platforms, and that is huge. Now we are starting to get to that place where the Nintendo Switch 2 is starting to get day and date with the big AAA games, and that is a really crucial and important thing to have happen for the Nintendo Switch 2. So I was really happy to see that. And then one of the other big games that was originally announced at the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 that we've been waiting to find out some information on, to find out its release date. No, not Elden Ring. We'll be talking about that one in a little bit. But we finally got the release date for Hades 2. And not only did we get the release date for that, but it is coming out really soon, at least digitally. You will be able to play Hades 2 console exclusive on September 25th. That just made September one of the best and craziest month on the Nintendo Switch 2. We just got Silk Song not too long ago, and that game, it is really good, and it's one of the standout indie experiences of this year. But now we got Hades 2 getting ready to give it a run for its money in the same month. You had a lot of these other games that tried to get out of the way of Silk Song just to have Hades 2 coming at them like, hey, I'm here too. But there is also going to be a physical version of Hades 2, and yes, it will be all complete on cartridge. And it looks like the big reason for that is because Nintendo is publishing the game physically. And the physical version of the game is coming out later, and that'll be in November. But I don't think that I'm going to be waiting until November to play this game. I've said it before that the original Hades is one of my favorite action games of all time, one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch 1. So I'm really excited and looking forward to Hades 2, and excited to see if it's going to be another game that makes this game of the year race a little bit interesting, and if the game of the year is just going to really be carried by the indies this year. So things are heating up, and it's exciting time for us gamers. But now we need to talk about what was missing at this Nintendo Direct.
Mario.
So overall, I thought this was a really good Nintendo Direct, but there were a few things that were missing. Continuing on with talking about the third parties, the big thing that was missing was there was no Elden Ring at this Nintendo Direct. Now, we just had PAX West not too long ago and Gamescom, and there were a lot of reports and hands-on reports that came from those events about Elden Ring, and many of those reports were not very flattering or positive about Elden Ring. So it looks like maybe Elden Ring may have been delayed or at least pushed to sometime later on next year, as they take the time to get that game looking and running in a better way. And hey, I get that. I understand that. Elden Ring was one of those big third-party showcase games for the Nintendo Switch 2. So I'm sure they want that to come out and really to blow people away with it, rather than it being one that receives a lot of negative attention. So I get it. No big. We still have plenty of awesome games to play this year, and we'll be ready for Elden Ring when it's time for it next year. And hey, maybe we'll get the From Software 1-2 punch, where you get your Elden Ring, and then not much further behind that, Dust Bloods, which that also was not there. We haven't seen more from that, but it is a big 2026 game, so they'll probably want to get ready to start the hype cycle for that one earlier next year. And then on the Nintendo Switch 2 editions side of things, or even just enhanced backwards compatibility updates, we got a good one with Super Mario Wonder, and then there were some really random third-party ones that were like, oh, okay, that's cool, but I know a lot of us were hoping to see something from Monolith Soft to get those updates, those upgrades to the Nintendo to the Xenoblade series on Nintendo Switch 2, where we've talked about it before, how there were reports of that 60 frame per second mode being hidden away in Xenoblade Chronicles X, and then hopes and dreams of a Nintendo Switch 2 edition for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, seeing updates and upgrades, or Nintendo Switch 2 edition for a Bayonetta 3 or Astral Chain, and we didn't get any of that. So maybe they're saving that for, maybe sometime next year, when there might be a little bit more of a lull in the release lineup. But it would have been cool to see some more, but we know more is going to be on the way. And speaking of Xenoblade, there's definitely big hopes and dreams of seeing something brand new from Monolith Soft, to see them have that showpiece game that can really blow people's minds of, man, look what Monolith Soft can do with the Nintendo Switch 2. But now we have to wait for maybe sometime early next year to see that Monolith Soft goodness. It's okay. I'm patient. We can be patient together. We're going to get that Monolith Soft goodness before we know it. But the big thing that was missing, and that would have put this Nintendo Direct into that A plus S tier type of category of Nintendo Directs, was, Nintendo needed to show one of their big guns, and the one that everybody was expecting and hoping to see, especially since we're talking about the Mario 40th anniversary, was to see that brand new big 3D Mario. But it wasn't there. But it's all good. I think right now Nintendo wants to let Donkey Kong have his moment, and he is definitely having a moment. Another one of those Game of the Year contenders is Donkey Kong Bonanza, and that is my top contender right now. That is an absolutely amazing game, and I love that game. And I can understand that maybe if you have that announcement of a brand new 3D Mario coming soon, that people might be like, okay, well, I'll wait on Donkey Kong because now we got Mario coming. And even though we all know a big brand new 3D Mario game will be coming sometime soon on the Nintendo Switch 2. But man, there really was a lot to break down from this Nintendo Direct. After all, it was the biggest Nintendo Direct ever. There's a lot of good stuff, some not so good stuff, but overall, I thought it was a really good Direct. For me, I'll give it a nice solid 8 out of 10 because it lacked that that one big major Mario or Zelda or Smash type of announcement that would have sent it to that next level. But we got a lot of good announcements. We know we had to look forward to for the rest of the year, and it is a lot of really good games. We know we have some good stuff to look forward to next year, and from what we've seen already so far, 2026, going into the Nintendo Switch 2's the end of its first year, start of its second year, it's already looking worlds better than the second year of the original Nintendo Switch. So I think that things are looking good for Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch 2. There's a lot of good games, a lot of good first party games coming out, those big exclusives. We got a lot of really good third party support, and not just any third party support, but some big AAA third party support. So right now things are looking really good for Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch 2, and I'm excited and think that the Nintendo Switch 2 has a really good future ahead of it. But what do you think? How are you feeling about Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch 2 after that Nintendo Direct? What games are you looking forward to the most? What were you disappointed that wasn't there? Let me know in the comments. But one thing's for sure, and that there is definitely a lot of good games to play right now and a lot of good games to play in the future. So we have some happy gaming times ahead of us. One of those really good games, I did a breakdown on one of those talking about Hollow Knight Silk Song, and you can check that out in this video right here. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Always remember to pick up a controller and just keep playing, and have a good one. I'll see you later. Peace.